Well, hey there. Welcome back to Shapes.io. I'm Joe Mama, your host. And so we're taking a look at the hub of our machine that we built in the last episode. And I made a couple of changes to it, if you can't tell. I've actually removed the timing circuit that used to be up here, and instead set up this interesting system where I took one lane and actually set it up so that one by one, all these, items come in. They fill the other 15 storage units of the shape that's the hub is asking for. But I took the 16th lane and I sent it down the serpentine belt. And what's going to happen is the timing of the release of all of these storage units is actually going to be based on a trigger, not a timing trigger, but it's going to be based on production. So what's going to happen is you can see all these shapes are filling up the serpentine belt, and if we go to the wires layer, you can see this trigger right here. This is the trigger that used to be attached to the timer. Now watch what happens. This is going to fill up and back into the storage unit, and the storage unit's going to spill over, and there's the trigger. When it spills over and crosses that counter, it fires the trigger and it empties all of these storage units. And then there we go. It switches to the next shape, but as before, the storage units are allowed to empty. They're allowed to run until they're empty, and even if the shape is changed. But there's a filter in place. There are a couple of filters in place so that the new shape, whatever, when it switches over here and the hub changes shape in the middle of the flush, this filter kicks in and shunts any extraneous old shapes that are now the old shapes. The shapes that were being flushed become the old shape. Anything that doesn't make it past this gate before the changeover happens gets shunted to the trash. And that just keeps the belt clean. Also, I added in a circuit because for some reason, this group of 4 storage units, the way it was working, they wouldn't completely empty. For whatever reason, they wouldn't completely empty. Even though all the other ones would, these 3 specifically would not completely empty. So what I went ahead and did is on the non-priority inputs, I flushed them to the trash, but I put a gate here. And this gate is operated by whatever shape is required. Okay, whatever shape is asked for the hub. As long as, let's say, this new shape comes in and it starts stacking, it starts going through these storage units. Now, one might think that this shape would just pass on through, which it will. It'll pass on through out of the storage unit, and then it's going to come to this filter. If it's the shape that's being asked for by the hub, then it's going to dead end, and it's just going to come to a stop. It's not going to go to the trash, it's going to stop. And then that's going to back up like the plug on a drain. And this will back up really quickly and fill these storage units with that shape. But as soon as these are flushed out, and whatever is in this lane right here, whatever is left in the storage unit, and what of course would be left in these tunnels, once the changeover happens and the shape that is in these tunnels no longer matches the current shape, then of course this filter reads them as false and it will shunt them to the trash. So basically it's going to clean out the storage units. As soon as the shapes are no longer relevant, then this filter cleans them out of the storage unit. The other 12 have not been doing that. I'll put a similar system on there if they do, but I have a feeling that this is doing this. Something about the interaction with this timing circuit here. I have a feeling that's what it is, because as soon as I started using this, and not the big timing circuit up in the northeast corner, that's when this problem started, that these things would not completely flush out. Anyway, yeah, it's not an original to me. I've seen other people use a system like this. This is just my application of it, but it's kind of a cool way to do it. Instead of the timing circuit with the paint going around the belt, you could just kind of set up a place where, like I said, the new shape fills up, it fills this serpentine belt, and as soon as it goes into this storage unit, it spills over like the overflow on a sink. This counter right here, this gauge actually detects the overflow, acts as the trigger, and as soon as it says, oh, this is overflowing, open all the gates, release the storage into the hub, that's what it does. And as we saw in the last one, not only does it release the shape into the hub, it also shuts off the tier up shapes. because we got the, I guess you could call this the level up shape and call these right here the tier up shapes. I have these right here are blueprint shapes, but the pinks right here, the logo shape, and the rocket would be tiering up because, where are we at right now for tier? Okay, one is at tier 35 and the rest are at tier 34. Okay, and slowly building our way up there. Boy, it actually is going a little bit slow. Maybe that's just me. Okay, let's see if we can see this happen again. It's going to go through this trigger and open all the gates. Let's see if we can witness that happen. There it goes. There's the trigger, and there goes all the storage units. And they should all empty out. And there's the shape changeover. So now all this flushes out. Notice it's shunting everything to the trash, cleaning out the storage units. And the storage units are clean. Excellent. Okay, so let's take a look at this new shape. Before we go on to the subject about which we were going to do this video, let's verify that these shapes are going out as they're supposed to, and they seem to be. Okay, so the reason we're here, and the reason I'm guessing you came to view this video, is because of this thing right here. This is my automatic color mixer. This is a smart mixer. And what this does, this will create a full belt of whatever color is requested using only the regular 3 primary colors as input. So just to show you that it works, let's go through all the functions. And I've got this set up so that all I got to do is push this button, and it's going to simulate a call for a certain color. So let's say it calls for red. Now red, as you can see, comes in from here. It gets shunted into this bypass lane that goes completely around the device and then goes into this, goes through this storage unit that basically, it's an overflow. So I put this right here as an overflow. So if this stops up, let's say all of a sudden we change from red to green, but the red will continue to come in here and go into the trash. Obviously this will stay here, but the rather than filling the storage unit, the excess red will clear the lane and go into the trash, and that just makes for a quicker changeover. So now we switch to green. Oops, oh, we're doing red and green. Okay, well let's turn off the red, and we can't have both. So let's turn off the red, and let's get the green. Okay, so as before, because it's a primary color, it comes from the green lane and it bypasses the mixing machine and heads straight out the outlet right here. And as you can see, we're pushing 19.8, which at this point is about a full belt. So I'd say there it goes to 20. I mean, at this point, basically, it's just acting as a pass-through from a set of 5 extractors, which, of course, is going to give us a full belt. So let's turn that off. And then, as you can imagine, okay, the green is being cleared out. And let's pump out some black, or some blue. And the green has already shunted to the trash. Great. And there goes the blue. And just to let you know, this filter right here will only allow the proper color to go through. If the color that's being called for is blue, it's only going to allow blue through. Anything else, it will shunt to the trash. Now, in the case of a null signal, it's just going to stop. It won't shunt it to the trash. It's just going to stop. See, no color is being called for, so it just sits there. But if we say call for green again, then it gets a signal, then it compares it, and it says, well, it's not a no signal, it's not a null signal, it is a green signal, and that doesn't match the blue, so it's going to go to the trash. Okay, so that level is completed. Great. So we're going to turn off the green. Now here we start to see some mixing. So let's let that clear, or we don't have to. We don't have to let it clear. Let's go ahead and hit yellow. Now, as you know, yellow is a mixture of red and green. So what we see here is both the red and the green are allowed to travel. And the green, instead of going down its usual lane, is shunted at this filter right here into one half of the mixer that's on the red lane. Now this, anytime red is used, anytime red is needed, if it's not a primary color, it's going to go down this lane. Okay, so we're going to shunt the green over to this to this middle lane here on the first set of mixers. Notice there's 2 sets of mixers here. If I didn't point that out, if you didn't pick it up, we've got 6 mixers in parallel on one set, and then on another set we've also got 6 mixers in parallel. So on this first set, which red will always use when it comes to mixing, the red stays on this lane, the green is shunted over to this mixing machine, this half of the mixer, and you can see it's spitting out yellow paint. So we've got our yellow paint spitting out just like it should be. So let's turn that off. Let's go ahead and do cyan, which of course cyan is blue and green, so we see the blue and green, of course. So as you can see, the blue and the green are coming into this lower set of mixers, and the blue is being shunted down this lane here past the mixers, and the green as well. And you can see the cyan coming out the business end of it. So we can see that's doing its job. So let's turn that off. Now, of course, we've got magenta. Magenta is a mix of blue and red. So in this case, the blue is shunted over to the upper machine, and the red, of course, stays where it normally does. And in this upper machine, the blue and the red mix and create a full belt of magenta. So let's turn that off. And let's go to white, which is, of course, a mix of all 3 colors. Now pay close attention to what happens here. Now it flushes this stuff out of the system. Okay, the red and the blue come in just like they did to make magenta, but instead of being shunted out the outlet, the magenta is actually redirected to the other half of the mixer with the green. So now the green is mixed with the magenta and spits out white. So you can see that works, and it is spitting out a full belt of white. And that's how this machine, that shows you that this machine works. Okay, so let's take a look at the internals. Now pay no attention to this circuit up here. This is just a test circuit. This is just to simulate the inputs from some larger device that would require this thing to make a color. So we just need something to send a color signal. That's all this is. You can copy it for gits and shiggles if you want, but if you're going to incorporate this machine as part of a larger MAM or something like that, you're not going to want this in there. You're going to want to remove it. This is just kind of, think of it like a test bench. Now, before we start operating this machine, let's take a look at the logic. Let's take a look at the brain of this thing. Now, in order to fully understand exactly how it works, let's kind of review how colors are mixed in this game. So, of course, we've got our 3 basic primary colors, which are red, blue, and green. And from there, we also get our secondary colors, which are yellow, magenta, and cyan. And yellow we get by mixing green and red. And then magenta we get by mixing red and blue. And cyan we get by mixing blue and green. Now, of course, we take all 3, mix them together, we get white. But if you want to break it down into each color, if you think about the fact that we've only got 3 color inputs, so you need to ask yourself, well, how often would, say, the color red be needed? How many color options would require the color red? And the answer is 4. Obviously, red. If the color called for is red, then of course we open the red gate. And if we need the color yellow, if we need the color magenta, and if we need the color white, all of those require the color red. They would require the gate for red to be open. And for blue, obviously, it would be blue. Then, of course, we would need blue for magenta, we would need it for cyan, and we'd need it for white. And for green, of course, is also 4. We would need green, and we would need it for yellow, we would need it for cyan, and we need it for white. So each color, each primary color, has 4 options that would require it to be used. So that actually kind of makes the logic a little bit easy. 4 is a good number to work with. So for that, what we do is, let's think about how that works. Okay, so we're going to receive a signal. When we get that signal, something has to say that, okay, well, yes, that is a proper signal. We need to open the red gate. We use our lovely little OR gates. Now this OR gate is like an eager beaver. We've talked about this before. This OR gate is just waiting for somebody on the left or the right to tell it, go ahead, open it up. An OR gate an AND gate, all these gates send out a signal. Now the OR gate wants to send out a positive signal, a 1. It wants to send out an on signal. But it can only do that if somebody in one ear tells it, turn on. And so it needs to be told to turn on by something, and then it will pass that signal on. It's waiting for that signal. And so if either one of these, either this or this, says turn on, which right now the signal from this side is saying turn on, then it's going to turn on. That's why it's called an OR gate, either this or that. Now take, for example, an AND gate. An AND gate's kind of reluctant. It's like, I don't want to open up. I mean, both of you are going to have to tell me that you want me to open before I'll open. So it's going to have to be you, and then I'll open. But no, this is an OR gate. All it needs is one signal from one side to send a signal down the line. So what do we have on either side? So that's 2 options. Well, we need 4 options, don't we? So what we do is, I mean, if you think about it mathematically, 2 to the second power is 4. That sounds like a familiar number. So what we do is we put an OR gate on either side. There's another eager beaver on this side, basically wanting to tell his buddy here, yes, go ahead and turn on. What's happening is the signal, here's the signal that's coming in. It's calling for red. So we run that signal past these comparators, okay? Notice how it's set up. On both sides, we've got an OR gate with 2 inputs, and that input is a comparator. And so that's a total of 4 comparators, and into each comparator we've got the signal coming in that's being called for, which in this case is red, and we've got some constant signals here to compare, and that is a signal that's red, a signal that's yellow, a signal that's magenta, and a signal that's white. And so if any of those conditions are true, then one of these comparators is going to say, go for it, turn on, send the signal, open the red gate. And it only takes one. I mean, hopefully I don't have to explain it beyond that you can see that all it takes is one signal. And in this case, it's the one for red. You can see there's the 1 right there. It's sending the 1. So this OR gate is happy. It's like, yes, go ahead, turn it on, open the red gate. And it's sending the signal to this guy who's like, there's the signal I need. I'm going to send it on its way. It only needs 1. So let's say if we turn the red off, now there's nothing. You see, it's all zeros. So let's go ahead and turn on the yellow, and look at that. Now this signal matches, and this comparator turns it on, and then it follows through and sends the red. But notice, there's also this signal right here. There's a very similar setup right here for green. The constant signals are different, just like the ones we talked about. In this case, it's green, yellow, cyan, and white. So if any of those is detected, then this will open up. So in this case, all of these are receiving that logic. All of these are receiving that signal and doing a constant comparison. And in this case, we see that this yellow, the fact that yellow is being called for, matches the conditions for both the red gate and the green gate. So therefore, that gate's opened, and it's rerouting the paint to where it needs to go. So if we turn off the yellow, and let's say we turn on the cyan, then you can see the cyan under blue has turned on, and the cyan under green has turned on. So the green and the blue gates are now open, and it's making cyan. It looks complicated, but you know what? It actually came out nice and neat, and it looks really good. So let's actually follow the signal down here so we can see what else is going on. So we've got our signal coming from the blue gate, and what that does is that opens this gate right here, which allows the blue to go through. And this gate right here also allows the blue to go through, but the reason I did this, I put this gate here, is to just kind of flush there's going to be something left over right here. There had to be a bit of a space. So this is just to flush any extra blue out of the system. That's all this gate is here for. This one here flushes the green, this flushes the red, that's all it's there for. If it were just blue, now notice the signal coming in is cyan. Now this gate right here, and there's a similar gate on the green, and there's a similar gate on the red. This gate is attached to a NOT gate, which means it's opposite. Meaning this gate, in order to operate, in order for this filter to work, it needs to receive anything but a blue signal. if it receives anything but a blue signal, it's going to close this option right here. This option will not be available. That's the best way I know how to describe it. There's a blue constant signal here. If this receives a blue signal, then what's going to happen is this comparator is going to send out a 1. Okay, saying, yes, it's true. This comparison is true. We've got blue. The only reason we're using a NOT gate here is because of the way these things are arranged. In order for the blue to go through here, I mean, from a total physical standpoint, to physically fit the belts and everything where I want them to go, I needed to set this filter up so that it's actually the reject lane that takes care of the pure blue signal. So I turned it into a NOT gate. And so that way, when a blue signal is detected and this comparator says, yo, in fact, let's go ahead and do that. Let's turn off the cyan and let's turn on the blue. Okay, this comparator is saying, yo, buddy, yo, we match. But see, if we send that straight to the filter, it's going to send the blue straight up into the mixer, and we don't want that because that's not where it's physically located. So I actually had to throw a NOT gate in there to reject it to the side. It's technically not a reject, but according to the filter, it is a reject. You know what I mean? Hopefully that makes sense. It was just a matter of where everything physically fit. If we did it some other way, we could probably get away with not using a NOT gate at all. But in this application, we're using a NOT gate. And the same thing goes for the red, goes for the blue, or goes for the green. So that takes care of the blue. Now, let's take care of the specialized parts that, as far as the mixing goes. Now, as we saw, let's go for yellow. Let's call for yellow. Okay, yellow is red and green. So, in this case, green would normally go straight up this lane, but we've set up this gate right here with the same NOT gate, again, just because of spacing. So if it detects yellow, it says, yo, okay, yellow is the signal. Operate the gate. But in this case, we're telling the gate to operate oppositely, just like we did with this gate over here. So if it's true for yellow, it goes through this NOT gate and becomes false, and the NOT gate rejects the green over to this other lane. So this is specifically looking for yellow. This lane right here, the only thing that's going to pass through that is green paint in the event that yellow is called for. But any other time green is needed, then this lane will be the path that green takes. In fact, we could turn that off and turn on cyan, and there we see green goes down here like it's supposed to. And it will do the same thing with white. Okay, also, if we look right here, remember how we talked about blue and red could mix to make magenta? Or blue and green could mix to make cyan. Now here's a case where we didn't need to use a NOT gate because of the way everything was placed. So we've got this constant, again, we got our main bus. So I'm going to call it our main bus, the main incoming signal that all these machines need to read. They need to read what is needed by the hub or whatever. Right now, cyan is being called for. So this comparator right here compares that incoming signal with the constant signal coming in from the other side, which is cyan. And it says, yeah, it matches. Great. So if that matches, then any blue that's coming down the system, which it should be, the way we designed it, it will redirect the blue to this lower mixing machine. So that's how that works. Now, we can see if we were to change it to magenta, now it no longer matches, so it rejects the blue into the upper mixing machine. So that's how that works. Let us switch it over to white. Now in this case, because this is not cyan and this is not yellow, then the paint is allowed to go through its default paths. And so what we see is that the blue is shunted over to the red and it makes magenta. But here's the thing. When it comes through this filter right here, this compares the signal with the incoming signal. It compares the incoming signal with the color white, and if there's a match, then it allows the magenta, rather than go to the outlet like it normally would, it is sent down this detour. I want to call it a bypass because it's actually not bypassing. It is doing the opposite. It is detouring, and it detours to the base of this mixing machine where, let's say, blue would normally go. and it just feeds right in, no special gating necessary, and it mixes with the green, which comes up here like it normally does as a default. So then it all mixes together and forms white. And then, as of course, we've got this signal right here. We've got this filter right here that measures, that reads the incoming signal. And as we see, the incoming signal is white, so it's true. It allows it to pass through, and we get white. Okay, I want to show you something. As you can see, I've set this thing up so that as much as possible, I wanted to fit the circuitry within the confines of this machine, because I'd like people to be able to stack this machine together with other machines nice and tightly. But obviously I couldn't completely do that, but I tried. Note something. I want to show you a little tips and tricks. You know, I'd like to show you a little tip that giggity, that works for me in this game. I don't know if you guys use it, but it's a neat little trick. I like to use color coding so I can keep the wires as close as possible so they don't cross over. Sometimes you run into a case where it's almost unavoidable to bring the wires close to each other, and I wanted to keep these close. But how could I bring this blue wire close to this wire? You can see that there's some NOT gates here. Let me show you how that works. What you can do, we'll turn that switch on. The NOT gate gives you an opportunity to change the wire color so that they don't mix together. And in this case, this blue wire is coming really close. Now this blue wire here, instead of continuing, is switched with a NOT gate. But of course, the NOT gate turns the signal off. Again, this is assuming you have an on signal, a number 1. Then you can just use a NOT gate. Now it's off, but once it's clear of the blue line and can be by itself again, then I put another NOT gate in there, which I can now change the wire color back to blue, but it also turns the signal back on. So no harm, no foul. You'd never know that gate was there, and that is what this option right here is. That's what these two NOT gates are. The only thing they're there for is so that I can change the wire color. I just have to remember to turn it back on and when I change the wire color. Now, I wanted to demonstrate also that this also works if you want, let's say it's not an on signal, but it's a signal of a specific shape or a color or something. And in this case, it's a shape. So what you do is you use a transistor, okay? You got this green wire, but you're going to get close to this other green wire. So what you would do, you're like, well, it's not a 1, it's a shape. And simply putting a NOT gate, let's see, can we do that? Can we put a NOT gate there? I think we can. We can, but here's what happens. When it comes out the other side, if we put a NOT gate in its place, it becomes a 1. It's no longer the signal. It's no longer the shape signal. So you can't just use a NOT gate if it's a shape. So you have to use, in this case, a transistor. But you don't have to use a button. You can actually use another NOT gate to turn that transistor on. And there you go, because it puts out a 1 signal by default. And so over here, let's see, you know what? Let's go ahead and just copy this. Copy. And you don't have to change anything. Boom. And it turns it back on, and the signal is heading back down this line just as before. So there's some ways you can use NOT gates to get out of some sticky situations when it comes to wiring. And that's what I did here. So that's all that is. Okay, now it's great. This machine works, and it was the result of a comment somebody left on my on one of my videos, and that's cool. It got me thinking that, hey, maybe this is a thing that's possible. Only thing is, I have to say, I don't know that it would work really, or it would work, but I don't know if it's the best solution for the use in this MAM, and I'll tell you why. It produces a full belt of color, but it does only produce 1 color at a time. And okay, so this is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 2, 12 color mixers. Now this MAM, as I've designed it, uses a total of, there's 3 of these, right? 1, 2, 3, it's 3 or 4. 4. So there's 6 times 5, which is 30, times 4, which is 120. So there's only 120 mixing circuits that are necessary to keep all these color things, all these color storage units supplied. That's all we need. And it just constantly tops them off. But just look at this belt right now. At any given time, like 2 colors are needed right there to help top these things off. Okay, so that's great, and it probably doesn't need a lot. But in order to keep those topped off, you have to provide more than one color. You have to provide lots of colors. You have to provide all 7. They might need topped off little bits at a time to keep everything well stocked. And the same goes here. Like right now we're needing green. Looks like white is being needed. Looks like, is this more white that's being needed right here? Yeah, looks like more white. So multiple colors are needed. And if you can't supply those colors as they're needed in a full belt, then you can't handle a surge. Okay. Now these, if every lane needed cyan, by some fluke, then, oh, as a matter of fact, let's take a look. Oh, look at this. Look at this. The number 4, or no, the top layer is probably sucking down the green right now. Right? Yeah, so all of them need green. Okay? This is asking for green at a rate that exceeds this belt's ability to provide it. So, that being the case, our machine would not be able to handle that. Our color machine, it could handle it only 2 at a time, but the storage units are absorbing the surge in demand. Because the demand, each of these is producing a full belt, and it creates 2 full belts of layers. That's not something our machine could keep up with. So that's why I don't know that substituting one machine, like this input right here, and substituting one machine for that green input wouldn't work, because at other points, other colors are needed, or the full demand for color is going to exceed the machine's ability to provide it. Again, another option would be to have one of these machines for each lane, but again, you'd be dealing with, instead of 120 mixing machines, you'd be dealing with 192. 16 times 12 is 192. It can work, but you'd have to decide for yourself whether or not that would be such a big drain on the resources of the computer, on your PC. Graphically, I don't know. You'd have to try it. I may try it just for gits and shiggles, but I'm just not convinced it's going to be useful on a MAM. Now, in my last video, I said I'd listen to the comments. Now, I listened, and I made the machine. So, you know, for science, maybe I'll try it. I don't know that I would remove these storage units, because the thing with these storage units is that they also act as a quick response. If a color is needed, all the colors are right there, ready to insert into the machine, and you get a quick response. Whereas it takes a little bit of time for the machine, for the color-making machine to warm up, so to speak. So I don't know. Anyway, something worth trying. Certainly open to any of y'all if you want to give it a shot. Love to hear how your experience went. But again, I'll show you this, and you can kind of get an idea of how it's laid out. Again, it's just basically 5 extractors providing input into the green, blue, and the red. And there's the whole profile right there. And there is the electronics right there. Here's a close-up of the back-end electronics. And you can see how that works. Take screenshot if you so desire. And here's just a close-up of the front-end electronics. Now, you could run this signal wire to the back. I don't know how your arrangement's going to be, whatever machine. You could run this signal wire to the back, but I anticipate the way this is designed, because you want this to point toward the hub, I would think, that the signal from the hub is going to come from the front to the back. That's what seems to happen on any of these machines. So really, I mean, your signal could come in right here and then tap in right there, you know? We could just do that. That could be the input right there. Pay no attention to any of this. That could be your input, and then that would attach to all of the other circuits that need to be attached. So it's up to you. Do what you want to do. But anyway, there is a color mixing machine. I think it works really well. Hopefully this works for you. Maybe you can come up with a better design. I don't doubt it. This is my first attempt, and I'm sure given time I could probably improve on it. And I'm sure you can too. Anyway, if you like what you see and want to see more of it, just hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because I will be playing around with this for sure. You can bet on that. And I will see you guys in the next one. Ciao.